Okay, algebra, here are some examples that are will be helpful for the assignment from Tuesday as well as Wednesday's assignment. I will print out the notes that we took for Melissa and Nam, so you will have those notes printed out. These are just some examples that are going to be like what you see on your problems. So the first one is number 1 on page 213, and this is finding a slope, the slope of the line that passes through the given point. So we're given 2 points here, and we have to find the slope through it. So this is where we use what we called last year the subtracty thing. And so that would be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That gives us slope. Then we get the points as this is our first point, so we say it's x1 and y1, and this is our second point, so we say it's x2 and y2. So for the top, remember slope is always change in y over change in x. So we see how does y change. So I'm going to start with negative 2, because that's my y2, negative 2, and then I want to say minus my 5, which is my y1. So negative 2 minus 5 for the top. And on the bottom, I'm going to do the x's. Remember, x's are always on bottom, y's are always on top. And since I started with y2, I'm going to start with x2. So I'm going to say 6 minus, and now negative 1 is x1. So I need to say negative 1 like this. And then I simplify that. Negative 2 minus 5 is the same thing as negative 2 plus a negative 5. So the top is negative 7. And the bottom, 6 minus negative 1, that becomes plus a positive. So the bottom is 7. And then I'm going to simplify that, and negative 7 over 7 is negative 1. So the slope on the first one is negative 1. Looking at number 3, we have 2 points. I'm going to label them x1, y1, and then x2, x2, y2. So to do the top, those are my x's, or my y's. Y's are always on top, so I'm going to start with y2. I'm going to say 5 minus my y1, which is 3. And then on bottom, I'm going to say x2, which is negative 4, minus my x1, which is also negative 4. So 5 minus 3 on top is 2, and minus the negative changes to plus a positive right there, and negative 4 plus 4 is 0. And remember from last year that anytime you have 0 on bottom, that is not okay. Remember our no and okay. So if it is 0 is on bottom, that means that this slope is undefined. So you would write undefined as your answer. Okay, don't ever write a slope with a 0 in the bottom. That is an undefined slope. And the reason why is because that's an x line. It goes vertical and it goes right through the x-axis, and that's it. All right, so let's look at something else. This is like number 9, and what you're doing is you're finding a slope of each line, and you're counting from the point on the left, that's further to the left on the line, that'd be this one, to the point that's further to the right. And here, remember, we do our rise over run, and the rise, remember, is up or down. So we're going to go start at this point, and we're going to go down this time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means negative 4 on top because we went down. And remember, we always run to the right, and running 1, 2, 3. And that's positive because running to the right is always positive. And so our slope is just negative 4 over 3 on number 9. Remember, horizontal lines. Let me do a new page. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Hang on. Forgetting how to make a new page. That's okay. Let me do this and I'll come back to it in a second. All right, so looking at number 15, here you have to determine which line has the greater slope. And so you have to think about what kind of slopes these are. This line is going uphill, line 1, so we know that that is a positive slope. Okay, this line, slope man's going downhill, so we know that it is a negative slope. And you should know that positive slopes are always bigger than negative slopes because a positive number is bigger than a negative number. So here, line 1 has the greater slope, so larger slope. When you're looking at ones that are going the same direction, so maybe like this and this, so if we had these two lines crossed like this, here this one we can call line 1, this one we can call line 2. The more shallow it is, like this one here, like line 2, the more of a fraction it'll be. Okay, so the steeper it gets, it's like the harder you have to climb, you think about that, the bigger your number is. So line 1 here would be the biggest slope. So line 2 would start to get closer and closer to 0. So the closer and closer it gets to flat, the closer it's getting to 0. And the closer and closer it's getting to straight up and down, the closer it's getting, the number is getting larger and larger. And that's it on that. So let's look at the next one. All right, so this is 25, and what you're saying here is find the slope of each line. And anytime you have an X line, remember, X lines are vertical, and vertical lines, if you remember, slope man dies when he tries to ski off a vertical line, so this one is undefined. And then on 27, oh, there's the bell, y equals -4, a y line with no x, that is horizontal because it crosses through the y-axis, and a horizontal line, if slope man was trying to ski, he would go 0 miles an hour, so you would say the slope is 0. All right, looking at 33, what we're doing is finding slope and y-intercept, and remember slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, so we have to put it in that format, and the one that we're given here already is. So when it already is, all you have to do is find the slope, which is your m, and your y-intercept, which is your b. The slope is always in front of your x, as long as it's in this format, so my slope is 5, and the y-intercept is the number at the end, and that is -2. So there is my slope and y-intercept. So if it's already in the format y equals, then you are ready to go to label your slope and y-intercept. But sometimes it won't be, like number 37. So I have to fix it. So I want to get the y by itself on one side. So I'm going to move this 2x over to the other side. And the way I do that is by take away the whole thing, minus 2x, and then I'm going to put minus 2x on this side. I'm going to bring my y down. Now 7 and -2x are not like terms. In order to be in slope-intercept form, I want my x term first. I'm going to put that -2x in front of, right after the equal sign, and then I'll scoot my 7 to the end, and that 7 is positive, so we're going to write +7. Now what we have is we have it in slope-intercept form, because we have y equals something x, and then plus or minus something at the end. So now I can identify my slope and my y-intercept. Slope is what's in front of x, and that is -2. Y-intercept is what's at the end, so that is 7. All right, I want to do one more like this. So number 39. So what we're going to do is we need to get that y by itself. So the first thing we'll move is the x. So I'm going to put this over here. So I'm going to bring down my -3y right here equals, and I want my x term right after the equal sign. So I put that here, scooch the 10 over. So I'm going to write +10. Now this is not in slope-intercept form because y has a coefficient of -3. So now what we need to do is we need to divide everything by that -3. So I'm going to divide here by -3. I'm going to divide here by -3. I'm going to divide here by -3. So I end up with y equals, and when I have two negatives like this, I'm going to change it to positive 2 over 3x, and then I'm just going to leave this as 10 over -3. So plus 10 over -3. If you wanted to write that as a mixed number, that's fine, but you don't have to. So now I can identify my slope. So m equals 2/3, because that's what's in front of the x right here. And my y-intercept is 10 over -3. Or if you wanted to write that as a mixed number, it would be -3 1/3. All right, I think that's the last one. Okay, I did want to talk about, so remember that when you have your axes, anytime you have a y line, so like say y equals 2, that means it crosses the y-axis, and a y line is horizontal with 0 slope. Okay, and then so an x line, those are your vertical lines because they cross through the x-axis. See right here, it crosses through the x-axis. This is probably something like x equals 4. And the slope of an x line is always undefined because slope man would fall down and die right here. So an x line has an undefined slope. So just wanted to make sure everyone remember that. I think that's it. I hope that's helpful, and I will print out those notes. And this is if you have questions today, you can first watch this video, then hopefully you've already watched it before you ask any questions. So I'll tell Mrs. Burles. And then try to fix them. If not, she can answer your questions, and you can turn in this assignment at the end of class, and then the worksheet is due tomorrow. See you guys tomorrow.